Your agent may have set up a meeting between you and Tim Burton just to sort of talk about different story ideas. I believe that was right after Pee-wee's Big Adventure.
That is correct. It's pretty close to accurate. We were both at the same agency, Tim Burton and I, and neither of our agents knew what to do with either of us, to be perfectly honest, in terms of sensibility. And they thought that we would get along, and indeed we did. I think our first meeting was actually at Tony Bill's restaurant. What was that restaurant called?
Oh, it was in Venice, right?
It's in Venice, yeah. What was it called? Market Street Cafe.
Okay.
The Market Street. And then we went and walked on the beach for hours and became really good friends, actually. I don't think our agents really had a goal in setting us up as people to talk to each other. They just sort of, wanted to appear busy, I think. So we became good friends and really did want to work together. And so one night at a bar in Brentwood, Tim told me about a drawing he had made in high school of a character who had scissors for hands. And I said, stop right there. I know what to do with that.
So it was really using that drawing as a springboard to create a story around it.
Exactly.
Id he have a name? Was it called Edward Scissorhands at the time?
It was, yeah. He was called Edward Scissorhands. I actually tried to get him to change the name because I had a character in my novel called Edward, and I was like, it's too many Edwards. Can we change it to Nathaniel Scissorhands? And he said no.
And I believe, so he just sort of gave you free rein to write a screenplay from there. And did he have any structure in mind in terms of how he saw the narrative going?
No, Tim, for all I know today, he's a lot more involved in the writing of scripts. But at that time, he wouldn't have dreamed really of thinking he knew how to write a movie. I know he wrote a weird little treatment. The one image I remember from his treatment, because he'd been wanting to make a film with this character for a long time, and the one image was he had him playing steel drums. I didn't know what that was for, so I didn't use that image. But anyway, so that was. He and I were both obsessed by suburbia. It just was sort of like naturally.
Yeah.
I mean, his story just came sort of like boom. I wrote it in 3 weeks. It was just something.
I think for him it was the vision of childhood. He grew up in Burbank.
He did.
For you it was Maryland. That was sort of the inspiration for that suburban reality as well.
Yes, and I actually was living in Burbank when I wrote the movie. I moved to a section in Burbank where you can have horses in your backyard, and where it's sort of Mr. Ed land, and so I was living there when I wrote it. So I was right in Tim Burton neighborhood, and indeed it is the kind of place where any kind of disaster strikes on the block, and everybody brings out their lawn chairs and can't wait to see someone else's misery going on, and it's hilarious.
Like in the film, there's so much gossip going on between all the women in this little suburban enclave, and they're talking about the goings-on of Diane Wiest and her family and everything. And what were the Diane Wiest character, the Alan Arkin character, were those also in your mind as you were constructing the story?
They were based on my family, actually. It's the only thing I've ever written where, other than my novel, where pretty much everybody is somebody that I knew.
Wow.
My mom wasn't an Avon lady, but she was always bringing strangers home. And my dad always has loved pithy ludicrousnesses, like, you can't buy a car with cookies, Jim, now can you? That would be classic my dad. And lots of those neighborhood women were based on the mothers of friends of mine, much to their chagrin. They mostly recognized themselves with their thinly veiled renamings. Edward was a portrait of Tim, though my high school boyfriend was a mime, and lots of people at home think it was based on him, because he's essentially a silent character, but it wasn't really. So, I don't know, the movie didn't do terribly well when it came out, and nobody fell all over me, telling me how wonderful I was. Most of them were sort of like, wow, that's weird. But, I didn't write it for them, so it doesn't matter. Yeah.
And what's interesting about the film is that Edward Scissorhands as a character is so sort of monosyllabic, sometimes he doesn't really speak, and he's almost like a silent film character, like a Charlie Chaplin. Was that always the intention?
Well, he was based on my dog, and I had this lovely dog, not one of these, but a dog a long, long time ago, who was about as present a creature as you could possibly meet on Earth. And she was always the brightest eyes, and always looked like if only she had the right utensils in her throat, she could talk, but she couldn't. So she was just eager and always involved, and that's how I felt about that character. Because he's naive, and he doesn't understand the rules, and he tries really hard to follow the rules or find the rules, or he takes things too literally. He's just sort of being trained how to be a human being. So that was kind of what my dog was like.
And did you ever have any actors in mind when you were writing at all? I mean, did you have any idea Johnny Depp would be, and I mean, this was the beginning of Johnny Depp's career, but... Yeah,
so at Austin Film Festival a couple of years ago, I was given this Screenwriter's Award, and Johnny came to give it to me, and evidently he knew that I didn't want him. Because to me, at that time, he was Winona Ryder's boyfriend. He wasn't, I had never seen his television show. I didn't have any associations with him. I wanted John Cusack, who I thought was adorable. And I wanted Laura Dern for the girl. So, but I'm perfectly happy with how it turned out.